I think the reason why the time bending nature that's used in the second time around, why that might hit emotionally, is because it's somebody revisiting the past, a moment of trauma to heal. And I think that's what you would do in therapy. You would revisit those moments and try and untangle them for yourself, to forgive yourself, to move on, whatever it might be. And I think that is a form of time travel, and it's how it feels, which is what I'm getting at. Like, to be able to do it literally within the dreamland of films expresses something that goes on internally with human beings.
Hi, Jack. How you doing?
I'm really well, thank you. How are you?
Doing well myself. We are here to talk about The Second Time Around, your debut drama short, and it's about a waitress being confronted by a mysterious woman while closing a cafe. It's had an award-winning international festival run. It will be broadcast on Film 4 this month. Has it already started?
Yeah, actually, just this weekend it went on Channel 4.
Nice. Okay. And then streaming on Channel 4 also for a year.
Yes, for a year it will be available for people in the UK.
Congratulations.
Thank you. Yeah, it's very exciting.
Now that the film is out in the world and resonating with audiences, what's the experience been like for you?
It's been overwhelming, actually. I've been going on Letterboxd every single day, like multiple times, just refreshing, just to see the new reviews. And it's wonderful to have something that existed in my head for so long that felt like a little secret now just be out, and people are really engaging with it on a level that I hoped that they would. They're really talking about the emotion and how it's making them feel, which is what I really hoped for. So it's really satisfying.
What's been the most surprising part about their responses?
I think the most surprising... I think the fact that it's clicking the way that I hoped it would, that people are seeing the complexities of the story in terms of what it sets up and where it leaves you, and it kind of leaves you in quite a bittersweet place, and I think people are really kind of thinking about that, and that's been lovely. Another surprising part of it in a less positive way has been the people who think that the film is a twist film. And that's maybe somewhat to do with it's maybe my fault a little bit for sort of marketing it so much as a mystery and all these things, and not revealing what the film is truly about, and with the hopes of people kind of engaging with it, you know, in a pure way, coming into the film not knowing anything, especially because it's only 10 minutes, and being able to kind of come at it with no expectations. But the people that are kind of commenting on the fact that, like, oh, I saw the twist coming, I'm like, I just don't think I was trying to make a twist film, actually. So it's very interesting that some people are reading it like it's not The Sixth Sense. There's no like big penny drop moment, I don't think, that goes, oh, it's been this the whole time. I think it's I hope that if people do figure it out as they're watching it, that's something that they understand, that that's what I wanted, and I wanted them to sort of then sort of understand what the dynamic was, so that the emotion can be brought up to the surface. So it's been interesting to see people, I don't know, like trying to feel like I was trying to trick them. Like I'm not trying to like outsmart you. Like I want you to know what's going on.
Right. I feel like most films these days, if you watch the trailer or you watch the teaser, you actually, like, I have no idea what's going on. I just generally don't even watch anymore. I just go into the movie blind, because I'm just like...
I think that's the best way of watching anything, because it's just the joy of kind of, you know, getting a story told to you. Like the less you know before it starts, the better.
Yeah. And then also it's like, it's a short film. You totally should watch it more than once. I feel like you can't even review a film without seeing it a couple of times.
And I'm a big rewatcher, actually. So when I was designing this film, I was like, I want it to be rewarding for people who are like me, who will go back and watch things multiple times, and hopefully they'll have a different experience each time that they watch it.
I did. I watched it 3 times, so I can attest. It's true.
Oh, I'm so pleased that you did. Thank you so much for that.
Of course. It was great, and I actually would like to know the origin story before the writing process. Like, how did this idea come into your mind, or what did it look like when it first came to you, even if it was almost like, I don't know, a whisper?
Yeah, I it was kind of built in stages, to be honest. I was thinking about a time travel concept. It was in the pandemic, and I'd had a very complicated relationship with Christopher Nolan's film Tenet, which I think anybody who saw it had a complicated relationship with that film. Some people rejected it outright. Some people loved the puzzle. Some people were like, like for me, I had an expectation that I thought it would be more like Inception, where it was a big high concept movie that was secretly a character movie. But that's not what Tenet is at all. And I at first was like, "Where? What was that?" And then over the course of a few months, I revisited it and thought about it a lot and became very obsessed with a lot of the concepts in it. And I'm a big time travel fan anyway, so I really enjoyed all of that. And there was nothing else to do in the pandemic, so I was just thinking about that movie a lot. And there's a scene in it between John David Washington and Robert Pattinson when they first meet. And it's very secretive and obtuse in the fact that it's clearly letting on that at least Robert Pattinson maybe knows him, and you're not sure why, but it's all kind of very under the surface. And I wondered, could you tell a story like that where you bring all of that emotion up to the surface? And so then from there, I started thinking about, well, who would these characters be? And then why would they be that? Why would this happen? And then just the more and more I dug into it, the more and more it revealed to me what it was. So it was very much just the seed of an idea of like a concept of, I wonder if you could do this. And then when I thought about it, eventually this is what appeared.
Yeah, I love that you said that. I think even on the first watch, immediately I knew that Caroline's character, I knew that she knew this woman in a way, even though like they appeared to be strangers. I don't know. That was really cool the way that you set that up.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, I mean, that's all credit to Caroline's performance as well. Like, she had so much to carry in terms of the context of the character, and to sort of express that so quickly. I'm so lucky to have her performing this, and I don't think the film would have worked at all if I didn't have Caroline or Hannah Onslow, who plays the waitress, because the film relies on their performances, and it wouldn't have been worth making if I didn't have actors as good as them, because so much of what is happening and that the true core of the story happens on their faces with the things that aren't said. And so it needed them to tell the story properly.
Fully. I want to dive into that a little bit more, actually. What was the conversation like? The first conversation with Caroline, how did that go?
Well, Caroline and I had met in 2018 because I was cast for one day in a show that she was in here in the UK. And I am a massive fan of Steven Spielberg's film Hook. Like, it's just such a childhood classic for me. And I actually shared a taxi ride with her at like 6 a.m. on the way to set in the dark, and didn't know who I was sat next to because I couldn't see her. And then when I got there, I was like, oh my God, it's Moira Darling from Hook. And she was so lovely and open to any of my questions about Robin Williams and Steven Spielberg. And we just became friends and stayed in touch ever since. And when I wrote this, we hadn't spoken for a little while, and so I was a little bit apprehensive to just text her and be like, will you read my script? So I went the official route through her agents and everything, and the next day I was in her living room and she'd read it, and we had a bit of a conversation about it, but mostly we just sort of caught up, and from that moment, in a very unofficial way, she was just in. And all those conversations about character and a lot of questions that she had about where she was coming from, and just almost about the logic of everything, and like everything that was coloured outside of the picture, they all came a bit later. But at first it was mostly just like, she trusted me, she liked the script, she was like, I'm in, let's do it. It was very simple.
So when you asked her, will you read my script, was that kind of in the back of your mind, like, ooh, I hope that she'd like to join?
Oh, of course, yeah. Like, in fact, when we were thinking about, because I knew when I was making this, I firstly wanted to make something that was achievable, so a 10-minute script set in one location with 2 characters, but I also wanted to challenge myself, and part of that was setting it at night, having a rain machine, like creating that kind of atmosphere. But the other part was casting actors I wanted one who was like a veteran actress who'd had a fantastic career, and I wanted another one who was a younger actress who was just at the start of her career but was clearly going to be, I mean, I think Hannah's definitely going to be a star. Yeah. And I basically was thinking, who can I reach out to, like when I'd written the script, and then I just was like, oh my god, of course it has to be Caroline, of course it's Caroline. And so yeah, when I had that conversation with her, I was very nervous to whether or not she would care, or whether or not like she would even want to do a short film. But luckily, yeah, she was very on board very quickly. As soon as the conversation started, it was clear that she wanted to do it.
Nice. Were there moments where she elevated the material in ways that surprised you?
1,000,000,000%. Yeah, there is many, many ways that she asked so many questions that, like, we could, I had this script written for a long time before we'd even got to the point where we could fund the film to make it. So I'd done so many redrafts, I'd thought about it. So, I'd go to sleep thinking about the concepts of the film. And I thought there was no way that anyone would be able to suggest something that I hadn't already considered or thought about. And Caroline did that over and over again. She had a really difficult job because, well, both of them did, but Caroline had to hold so much, and Hannah basically just had to react very naturally to this very strange situation that she was in. But Caroline, firstly, there's something that she does in the first half of the film that I can't believe I hadn't considered before. And without spoiling it too much, but essentially there is a bit of a time-bending aspect to it. And when Caroline arrives and she sees Hannah, Caroline is playing it as if she's also Hannah's age. Like, she assumes that because Hannah is that age and of where she's come from, I think you can probably read into what I'm getting at. Yeah. Caroline assumes in that moment that she's also the same age, and there's a moment around halfway through where she realizes that she isn't, and I just thought it was a wonderful way of heightening the emotion of what was going on, because it's so dreamy anyway that, yeah, when she told me that she kept that quite secret, and when she told me that's what she was doing, it kind of blew my mind.
Yeah, my mind is blown because I feel like I know the exact moment you're talking about, and I didn't even think about that until right now.
Yeah, I think it's something why would you think about it? Do you know what I mean? It's like a lovely secret that an actor is keeping that I wish I'd known earlier as a director, so that I could maybe even massage that into the story a little bit more. But ultimately, I just like that she's doing it, and it just adds an extra layer of depth to the character that doesn't even really need it to be pointed out. But yeah, just to show you how much she was thinking about it and how much care she had for the character.
Totally. Hannah definitely held her own opposite Caroline. What was the collaboration with Hannah like?
Well, my producer, Ash Horn, one of the producers, had a friendship with Hannah, and he suggested her to me, said she'd be perfect for it. I'd seen her, she'd done a role in a BBC show called This Is Going to Hurt, and she was a small role in Sam Mendes's film Empire of Light. So I'd seen her, but I didn't know her work that well, and met with her after she'd read the script, and we just clicked immediately. And she, I think, mostly just had like such an emotional response to the story, and she said that doesn't really happen to her very often, where she'd read it a couple of times, and when it clicked what was going on, she just said she was very moved by it. And then she just had so many ideas about the concept of it and why telling a story like this would be important. And really what she said, the sort of summation of what she said was using a time travel kind of time-bending story like this, where really the central conflict is about how Caroline really wants 5 minutes with this woman, and Hannah's character just wants this woman to leave. So they're in this kind of conflict with each other. So really the story is about trying to be present with someone, and that's what the central kind of conflict is. And she found that to be a meaningful subject to make a film about. But yeah, she I think that, you know, with all of my tricks and my influences from genre and the way that I wanted to sort of subvert expectations and all those kind of things, the tools I was using to create the film, I don't think any of that would have mattered if you didn't believe in, specifically as well, Hannah's journey in the film, to go from somebody who's terrified at the beginning and very unsure of this woman to then by the end being comforting her and then being very moved by her in 10 minutes. If you don't believe that, then the whole thing would have fallen apart. And I'm very, very lucky that she wanted to do it.
Yeah. Wow. I want to jump back just a little bit. So
Please.
With this project, we saw a shift from comedy, what you usually do, to drama. There's a different level of timing to make the message work and make it translate. What did you personally have to rewire in your mind to make the second time around work the way it did?
It's interesting because I don't feel like I had to do that much, because there is an element of this script and the rhythm in which it's told, which is not that different to sketch comedy. Because in a sketch, there is a setup, there is, the second act, the sort of the exploration of whatever the concept is, and then there is a subversion of expectations and usually a callback joke. And in the second time around, it's the same structure, except the callback joke at the end is a callback that hopefully doesn't make you laugh, but sort of touches you in a way that you weren't expecting. And it was I didn't know that when I was writing it, but I was like, oh, it's very interesting to me that, I come from a comedy duo. This is a two-hander. The structure of this is not that different from the structure of what a sketch would be in terms of the way it's written. And a lot of my influences have always been, I'm just a massive film guy, so I'm just a cinema lover. My influences are, the giants of cinema, and so even when I was making comedy, I was using those influences. Comedy's almost like just in me, and I can kind of just do it, and those influences were kind of informing how I would direct each sketch. Like, what genre is this taking place in? And I would always do that kind of subversion of expectations, like, oh, this is a heist, or this is a detective one, or this is a horror, and actually it's a joke. So it was more that I had gotten a little bit tired of that rhythm, and I wanted to apply that same, I'd worked that muscle out, but I could use a different kind of subversion of expectations. So instead of it trying to make you laugh, hopefully you enter into this with a certain set of expectations, thinking it might be a thriller or a horror or something, and then by the end of it, it's moving and emotional. And the theory I have is that if you enter thinking it could be threatening and then it becomes emotional, hopefully the catharsis is even stronger because you're not expecting that when it begins. So to answer your question, it wasn't like I had to unwire something. It was mostly personally kind of getting past the fact that anyone would care if it wasn't a comedy. Like I had to get over personally in my own brain, like my own inner critic, that, oh, no one's going to care unless this is funny. And, oh, I can't do something unless it's funny. So that was more of a personal battle that I had to sort of get over myself and just get it written and go for it.
And for people who might be in that same era that you were in, what advice could you give them?
About getting over yourself?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Or I guess even, you obviously have a lot of confidence around comedy, but when you completely shift to a different genre, it could affect your confidence. I don't know. I really couldn't tell from watching, but if you almost had to rebuild your confidence, what did something like that look like?
Well, by the time we were making it, I was so assured. I was so certain on what it was we were doing, and I felt like I could do it. I always felt like I could do something that, because whenever I was making comedy before, I felt like if you took the jokes out, it would just feel like it's in that genre. That was what I always aimed to do. But really, it was putting pen to paper, so to speak, and getting over myself in that way to feel like I was able to do something and anyone would care about it if it didn't have jokes in it. It wasn't made to make you laugh. And in that sense, it took me a while to do that, and I would always kind of hit a hurdle. But honestly, one afternoon, I just did it. I just went, there was just something that clicked. And so it's really not much advice, but honestly, I think just pushing through that and don't worry about the fact that, oh, who's going to like this? Who's this for? Is anyone? All that stuff that's in your head are only stories you're telling yourself. And actually, whatever you want to do, however you want to express yourself, even if you've come from a world of only writing sci-fi fantasy and now you want to do this grounded drama, like, it doesn't matter. My favorite filmmakers and storytellers shift between genres all the time. And I just think you don't need to be put in a box. You don't need to put yourself in that box. If you've got a thing you want to do, if you've got a story you want to tell, if you want to learn to dance, if you want to learn to paint or sew or whatever, I think that life is short and you should just go for it. And I'm giving myself that advice as well.
Beautiful answer.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Just off the top of the dome.
What do you hope people take away from the second time around?
Well, firstly, I hope people are entertained by it and moved by it, and because it's a piece of entertainment. I really hope that you feel like it's 10 minutes well spent. But honestly, I've made something that's pretty open to interpretation, and that's been interesting to hear people describe it in a way I never would have. And I think that's something that I really enjoy, actually, because I think my job as a director sometimes is to ask you questions. And there's a quote from something that I cannot remember right now, but somebody, I think it might have been, is it Sidney Lumet? Is that, yeah. Anyway, there's a quote about a great film starts when it ends, and meaning that when it finishes, it still stays with you. You're thinking about the questions it asked you and the concepts it brings up. And that's what I hope, is that it stays with people enough that they personally can think about what it means to them in a way that I never could have predicted.
If we were sitting down here, or maybe for a coffee a year from now, what do you hope we're talking about?
Wow. I really do hope we're talking about my first feature. I think that the reason career-wise I wanted to make this is because I wanted to show the world and myself that this is the sort of thing that I want to do and I can do it. And I hope that it leads to an opportunity to be taken seriously in that lane, so that I can helm something that will be released in cinemas as my first feature. That's what I really would hope a year from now. Although features take a while, so maybe that's a couple of years.
In the works. Would you want it to be the second time around as a feature, or do you have other ideas in the dome?
Well, because I've spent so long, I didn't want this to feel like it was a taster for a longer film. I wanted it to be a definitive short film, especially for myself. I was like, if this is the only version of it that ever exists, I want it to be the definitive version of the story. And that's my problem with a lot of shorts anyway, is that as good as they are, sometimes they just stop and they don't finish. Mm-hmm. And I didn't want to do that. And so because I spent so long compressing this idea down into what is the 10-minute version of it, I actually don't know what the feature version of it would be immediately, but I do have ideas that feel like spiritual cousins to it. So dealing with similar concepts, but in different genres, very different stories, but I can tell that, like, oh, this kind of timey-wimey stuff, it ain't going away. I like it too much. I think it speaks to me, and I think it's a really powerful way of expressing something very human, like more so than if you told a similar story about similar themes in a very grounded way that felt very realistic. I don't know if it would be as powerful than using something that's impossible, which I think feels real. I think sometimes that's, using something impossible like time travel or whatever can express something about our experiences that feels, I don't know, more truthful than it would do if you were doing it in a grounded way. So yeah, I would hope to continue that into feature film land.
Okay. I also really like a time-bending film myself, and from someone who's seen a lot of them, I almost feel like it's not as fiction as we think it is.
Oh,
Do
go
you
on.
feel that way too? Oh. I think it's just because, like, I do feel like kind of everything that's happened to you or will happen to you, it affects who you are still. I don't know how
No,
to.
I think this is, honestly, based on what I was just saying,
Yeah.
that's kind of what I'm getting at. I think the reason why the time bending nature that's used in the second time around, why that might hit emotionally, is because it's somebody revisiting the past, a moment of trauma to heal. And I think that's what you would do in therapy. Like you would revisit those moments and try and untangle them for yourself, to forgive yourself, to move on, whatever it might be. And I think that is a form of time travel, and it's how it feels, which is what I'm getting at. Like, to be able to do it literally within the dreamland of films expresses something that goes on internally with human beings. So yes, I totally see what you're getting at.
Right. Our brain like works in loops. So it's like you can like repeat the same thing with like people that maybe look a little different, but it's like all the same in the end.
Yes, and
Yeah.
patterns repeat, in individual ways and also in global ways. Like, we see the nature of our experiences being repeated over and over and over again, and we don't tend to learn from our mistakes. And again, I think using those kind of high concepts to express how we feel about that, or to kind of represent those experiences, to me feels like an easy way of kind of getting in on it, like at a very deep level.
Exactly. And I also agree with you that the second time around, it feels like a very, very complete story. Like, I feel like
Oh, thank
short
you.
films, it can be hard to tell a story with not so much time, but it just feels very complete.
Oh, thank you so much. That's very, very kind of you. And I don't really see the film anymore. Do you know what I mean? Like, I've spent
Yeah.
so long inside of it that I don't really know what works and what doesn't. So to hear that is very, it's gratifying. So thank you.
You're welcome. The first time you saw it in an audience, though, can you tell me about that?
It was a strange experience because you make a film that one of the themes of it is trying to be present, and you struggle to be present when you're watching it with an audience for the first time because it's so overwhelming. Honestly, our screening of it that we had a few months ago, it felt I haven't gotten married yet. I haven't had a wedding, but it felt as close to what it must feel like on your wedding day, where everybody wants to talk to you and there's everyone you've ever met, and it's just this very blur of a night. But I must say that when the film was on, there was just this kind of buzz in the room that, like, especially seeing it in a cinema for the first, like, as I've said, I'm a cinema lover, so I know that films are better in the cinema, but never have I felt that in a personal way, like with something I've made where I've seen it on the big screen and gone, there's something about the room, the fact that everybody is here collectively going through this together, the sound, the darkness, like all of that is changing this film. And I've never felt that on such a personal level before. So that was very special.
Nice. Jack, what's next for you?
Well, we are continuing to take the second time around through its festival run. We are Oscar qualified. So we're giving that a good swing and seeing what happens. And then after that, yeah, like I say, hopefully we can kick a door down and get started on making what will be my first feature. That's the hope anyway.
Yeah. It has been so amazing talking to you.
It's been
Thank
lovely
you
to
so
speak to you
much
as
for
well.
sitting down. Yeah.
Thank you.
Have a good rest of your week.
Yeah, you as well. Have a lovely afternoon.
I can edit one.
Should we...
Fantastic.